Ready? All right. I'd like to call this meeting of Board of Zoning Adjustment to order Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. So please stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Please bow your head. Lord Jesus, thank you for being such an awesome God. We thank you for your mercy and your grace. And Lord, we ask you just to watch over our meeting tonight. Watch over our city. Watch over our public servants. Watch over those who serve. We ask this thing in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Carroll. Here. Mr. Darby.
Here.
Ms. Allison.
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Here.
Mr. Brazil.
Here. Need a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Aye.
All right, item 1 is a resolution establishing rules on comments by the,
We need motion and second for minutes.
sorry?
Minutes for previous meetings.
Thank you. It's a long day. All right, I need a motion to approve the approval of the minutes of the meeting, previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion and second, please vote.
Aye.
All right, now, item number 1, resolution establishing rules on comments by the commission and public on agenda items. So moved.
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Before we discuss? All right. All right, so any discussion?
So I guess my question for Arlene and the attorney or whoever decides this, I'm for an open meeting. I'm for letting us call whoever wants, not have to sign a piece of paper, all this stuff that made our council meeting the other night very long. And I don't think it was the purpose of what we wrote in that item to happen. So to save time, we can make those rules, am I right, Rusty?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Or he as a chair, we can talk about it. I mean, I would rather, let's say if, I'm gonna use Josh, can I use you as an example?
Sure.
Josh, if you don't mind. If Mr. Baden wants to talk on an item, we're gonna give him 10 minutes. Instead of having to have him bring a team up here of people to talk for 10 minutes. Because the 3-minute rule really isn't a rule, it's something we implemented that I never had liked to begin with. So we need to discuss as a board, and we're going to open this up, but if Mr. Baden wants to speak on an item, as we do our agenda item, we ask like we used to do it years ago. I don't know how it changed or why it changed, but is there anybody in the audience like to speak on this item? Mr. Bill may raise his hand and want to, and we'll let Mr. Bill come talk. I don't say we got to limit it to 3 minutes. If they want to 10 or 12 minutes, whatever it is, give it to them. But the redundancy of bringing other people up to just give those people time is a waste of their time, and it takes time in the meeting. I'm not saying it's a waste of our time, but we need to focus in on the people that want to speak and give them proper time. Then, I want to say this circus the other night, but it was almost like a circus for those guys to try and be able to speak by having to bring people to get time. So that's kind of what Jonathan and I discussed. So I don't know what we want to present. It's open to the board, but if we're going to have open meetings, let's have open meetings.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that I think it's worked pretty good. We've had, for our meetings especially, we'll let people speak as long as they got something new to add. And if it starts to get redundant, we'll start telling them, please wrap it up. But I really think this board has done an excellent job of finding out stuff that we didn't know before we got to this meeting by letting the people speak and having discussions between, back and forth between individuals. We had a meeting a few months ago that really made a difference. I really think it did. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Troy. And so that's my opinion on it. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
No, I feel the same way.
Okay, my thoughts are these. If we're gonna do 3 minutes and then let them go on, then it has to be for everyone.
Absolutely.
It can't be, we have a rule that you can speak for 3 minutes, but you let Jane, John, and Jim speak for 10, 12, 15 minutes. But when Shamanda gets up there and wants a few extra minutes, then it's like, wait, we have a 3-minute rule, we need to cut you off. So if we're gonna extend it, whatever the rule is, whatever decisions we make here, it needs to be for everyone.
Right. So you say, so are you saying a max of 3 minutes? Or are you saying like?
No, I'm saying we've always used the 3-minute rule, but we have not always enforced the 3-minute rule.
Correct.
Okay? So if we're gonna change it, then we change it for everyone. If we're gonna enforce it, we enforce it for everyone. That's my thoughts about this rule, is that if we're gonna change it, make it 10 minutes, make it, if you have a group of 7 people that are speaking on the same thing, then you give one person a total of minutes that would include 3 minutes for all 7 people. However you change it around, it just needs to be consistent for everyone. That's my thoughts. And I said I wasn't gonna say anything. But I just think whatever we do, if we're gonna enforce it, we enforce it for everyone. Whether it's 3, 10, 5, 12. I went over my 3 minutes.
I just wanted to say something.
Okay.
Yes.
You can grant them more than 3 minutes by taking roll call. If you want to extend someone's 3 minutes, motion second.
Well, that's according to this, but in the past, our board, I know it ain't the city council, but our board has allowed people to go over a little bit if they're on a good point and just let them go until they get redundant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my issue with the whole, setting it up. I guess if we want to do this, let's do it. But
Can I just say something? As I think probably the person who sat on here the longest, we had some really big issues in the past with somebody getting up for 15 or 20 minutes and the same thing over and over and over. And I think that's where that rule came from, was just strictly because we had somebody that just kept on, and then we also had people that we would have 4 speakers and they brought the same points and each one of them was 10 minutes long. And so I think that's where it came from, was just trying to keep the redundancy and the stretching something a long way, just trying to make somebody have their points in order, because there were times we got somebody up with that didn't have any idea and they just kept on and on and on and on. So I just think that it's just, makes somebody really outline their points and keep it from getting redundant.
If I could put just a little color on this, obviously I don't have a vote, I'm not in favor or against these, I just will offer that these are very, very comparable to the rules that we have on the Lake City Council, and these would be harmonious with what you adopted in the Sulphur City Council, and it's 3 minutes. It can always be extended by the vote of 4 out of 5 members of the board. This allows a objective rule for when people can donate their time. That's a very common thing. Someone shows up, they've got 5 people, they fill out cards, they can donate time, and it has a limit of 12 minutes for one side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. The really purpose here is just to have some structural objective rules in place, but you always have the flexibility as a board to extend that time if you deem it appropriate. And I will tell you, I haven't been doing this here, but I do it all the time at Lake Charles City Council meetings. It's my job to keep the time and to say, Mr. President, the time of the speaker is expired. I haven't done that here, but I can do that. And
Mr. Lofton used to do it.
yeah, and I do that in an objective way, because it doesn't matter to me how long someone speaks. It's your rules, it's your board. So anyway, that's just to give you a little bit of color on the rule, the resolution that's before you.
Well, my point, the only thing is to give the speaker the time instead of them having to bring people up to gain time. That's the,
Well, they can do it by card. That's the way someone fill out a card and say, I donate my time to Troy Darby. And then he can have you can have up to 17 minutes donated.
so do they have to come to the podium
They do
every
not.
time?
No, they just
Because in the
fill out
council meeting the other night, each one of them came up to the
No,
podium.
if you get the cards, you don't have to do that. They hand the cards to the clerk, and she can hand it to the president, and he can say, I see that Mr. Darby has 6 cards filled out donating their time to him. And it's done like that.
That's what I'm trying to focus in. Simplify the process is all I'm doing. I don't want to get away from giving people time, but what happened the other night just,
Yeah, I wasn't here, so.
it was,
But yeah, the cards serve that function.
okay.
So, we do have people to speak on this item from the public. Mr. LeBlanc, would you like to come to the podium? Mr. LeBlanc, Bill.
Bill LeBlanc, 710 Roberta Drive. I like your idea, Troy. You know, if a person comes up here and they have an issue, you need them to say their piece, you know, because, I mean, a lot of times I've been up here way more than I wanted to be because it was a fight with the city council to get my work done. And I'm not going to outline every little thing because it takes way more than 3 minutes. But the thing about it is, the chair should be running the meeting. And if the chair hears the same thing over and over again, then you got the right to stop it. If we're going to go by Robert's Rules of Order, they're just a guideline. They're not really orders. You know, Robert's Rules of Order is just a guideline, you know, and any organization I've ever been in, the union or anything else, the chair runs the meeting. And I mean, you can stop it at any time if someone's, you don't want any personal attacks, which I heard in here the other night. You want business taken care of. And if somebody's up here legitimately do their business and they need time to do it, I think you should give them time to do it. Everybody that comes here is taxpaying citizens. Hopefully, you know, they're paying their taxes, and if you don't come here and miss a football game or anything else, or kids' soccer game or anything else, if you don't have a problem that needs to be worked out with the city. And I think if a person's going to donate their time to come up here and try to resolve the thing in a peaceful manner, let them go. If they get out of line like I have in the past, sit me down, you know. I mean, that's all you got to do.
You're right, Mr. Bill, and the chair does, and that's how the meeting can be ran. And when there's redundancy, you stop it and you make them sit down, or ask them to sit down. But I agree with you, because I'll go back to when we had the Mossville meeting at the old location. There were people who couldn't come to the podium, but I let them speak from the audience. Now, rule is you got to come so we can get it on the record. But you know what? It's an open meeting. They spent time to come to the meeting. They're part of the community. And I let a guy speak from one side of the room to the other and ask them to speak loud because we need to hear their voice. But what happened the other night at the council meeting, they wasted a lot of people's time, and not the city council. I don't mean it that way, but people trying to make a purpose, we're wasting time instead of just giving them the podium. I mean, that's where I'm at. So However we decide, I'm okay with it. If it's 10 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever. But you're right, the chair controls that and can police it as we move forward through the meeting.
Well, I mean, if we do adopt these rules, I do have an issue with the 2/3 rule in the thing. I mean, can it be a simple majority that says we extend the time?
Oh, I would say so.
You can amend the resolution any way you want with a motion and a second.
So that's, that is something I do have an issue with, because it's a higher bar to reach.
No, I totally agree. Majority, like everything else. But I mean, just what happened the other night, I wish our meetings don't get to that. I mean, we want to hear everybody, but what happened with bringing people up was just, it don't look good for one thing as a city. And not y'all, but the way we let that happen. You know what I mean, so.
All right, so we do have more people from the public. Mr. DePetta?
Danny DePetta, 5098 Bonin. What I didn't understand is what the intent was of this ordinance or projected ordinance. And I was asking for clarification to that. And even Mr. Billy said that there needed to be some fine tuning to what we were doing. In my opinion, it was to speed up the meetings with multiple speakers that had the same positive or negative view and to consolidate it into less speakers. And I think what this came from is when there was an ordinance that was going to be voted on where we were going to sell or lease pieces of property by the wastewater plant. And nearly 50 people had the same idea as they were voting against it. And what I think the intent was to consolidate those people, so we talk about redundancy over and over again. Where there wasn't that redundancy, a few people said the same thing that 50 people could have said. And what I didn't like Mr. Troy said, is that what we had was these parade of folks coming up to the podium, one after another, and then the speaker, who was the designee of that group, said, I'm not going to speak. Well, my idea is if you're not going to speak, don't parade all these people up or don't go through the motions. Just say you're not going to speak. You still have that option because you have a card in place. If you're not going to speak at that time, you can still speak on that. What I think is you can still speak on it if they haven't exhausted the vote yet. So, I don't think, in my opinion, that this was going to be a filibuster tool, which I believe is what it was going to end up being, where person after person after person spoke, and then they didn't stay on target. So if you're going to speak on an item, we need to stay on target on that item. And then the person who is in charge needs to make sure that those people are pushed in that direction. And then it also says in there, and I don't know what you're looking at, but I'm looking at the city council, where it says city attorney and then president of the council is on it. I'm not sure what you're voting on because I only have the city council resolution.
I think it's pretty much the same thing, correct?
No, y'all, is it BZA?
Chairman.
BZA for this one.
Oh, it does say
Land
that.
use for the
All right.
next
I didn't see that one, so it just goes.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's the only thing that's changed from the city councils. So it says BZA instead of city council.
Okay, I didn't have that. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, I think, Mr. Smith, so I think you maybe wanted to do land use instead of BZA, is that correct?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Did you want to do land use instead of BZA because I think that's your item?
Yes, so I just want to make a change to the provision on my property.
Okay, but you didn't want to speak on this item, correct? Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
All right, anybody else from the public wish to speak? All right, any other comments from the board? Any motions to amend it?
I'm gonna do a motion to amend, to change the two-thirds to majority.
You did a second.
I'll
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to change the 2/3 to a simple majority. Please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so is there anything else y'all would like to amend or talk about?
So we're just gonna leave it for 3 minutes per speaker and have them fill out cards? How are we gonna resolve them not having just one person, in other words? How do we,
They donate their time on the card. So if
do we need to
14
amend that?
people need to,
So are we gonna designate that on this card?
Yeah, you put,
Yeah.
like I would put, I'm Rusty Stutes, I'm here to speak on in favor of item 3 on the agenda, and I donate my 3 minutes to Jonathan Brazell.
But I don't think it's like in your face, that's what you're gonna do on this card. Does that make sense?
Oh, I don't know about the cards, but the cards are being changed, I thought.
The cards are being changed, but I
Yeah.
don't know if
we need to make a note.
Should be.
It should be on the card.
I think it
If you're
should be,
gonna
if
donate-
you're donating the time,
There should be a
it's-
box to donate
it
your time.
says who it's going to and the amount of time.
Okay, because that's my question. How does it go in the record if it's just on a card?
Well,
We're gonna have to read that into record.
That's exactly what the president does. He says, I've got a card from Mr. Stutes, I've got a card from Mr. Smith, I've got a card from Mr. Jones, and they all want to donate their time to Mr. Darby.
Okay,
That's the way it's done.
okay. That's simpler than what happened the other night.
Yeah, it's usually simple. But I wasn't here the other night.
Look, I might have made a boo-boo here. Does that say item 1?
Item 1.
So, Mr. Ballinger?
that's,
No, I'm good. I'd be redundant.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize for missing you. Yes, sir.
Hey, instead of filling out 25 different cards for everybody, so there, why can't?
Oh,
You don't get the vote?
please.
Sure, absolutely. Why can't you fill out one card, have the person that's gonna be a spokesperson, and then list everybody's name on that one card that they're gonna give their time to it? That way you're not fumbling through about 3 or 4 different cards for,
That's kind of, I mean.
I'm just trying to simplify for you guys and simplify for the people here, and then they have one card with a speaker that's gonna represent the group that's coming in to talk.
I mean, even if
they
they
only-
come in with a letter
They-
that says, hey, look, we're this group, so-and-so is gonna speak, and these people are donating their time, as long as we have that information to put in our records. I don't see why it
It's
has to
normally-
be the little card in particular, but that's the standard would be the card, in my opinion.
The standard rule is that the person who's donating time has to be present at the meeting and sign the card. But you guys are free to adapt the rule any way you want. That's the way it's.
So if they're gonna donate time, they gotta be here anyway?
That's correct.
That's right.
Now, their name would be on the card, and they would fill it out,
Absolutely.
the person given the
But they don't
card.
have to stay for the meeting, do they?
They do.
They will have to stay.
Well, I
They have
would
to
think
stay
that
for
they
the
need to say if they're
presentation.
here giving their time.
All right, I
And they
think
said-
Mr. LeBlanc, you had something to say?
I think this is the whole point, you know. If you do what Troy said at first, and you control the meeting and the chairman controls the meeting, then you don't have to have the cards or anything else, you know? I mean, there's gonna be people come up here, especially on zoning issues, you know, which you guys are pretty much in charge of. There's gonna be disagreements on those things, there's gonna be people trying to make their point, why they need a variance or whatever. And this stuff is super important to a lot of people. I know we've had people come in here when I was on that board that their livelihood depended on whether they got a variance or not. Or the one that we turned down as a zoning board, and I voted for it, was a lady wanted to take care of her grandmother, and we turned her down. She was gonna move a trailer in. She told us that she'd have the trailer moved out of there before the lady went to the funeral home, and we turned her down. I got off the board. I mean, there's things that come up that's gonna take longer than 3 minutes, and you guys need to be in charge of that. I mean, that's why you're the chairman. You know, you run the meeting. that's kind of the definition of your job, you know, so. I don't like to see a time, you know, I mean, if somebody's being redundant or being abusive or anything else, shut them down. You're the chairman.
And again, I apologize for missing you. So, anything else to speak on before we vote on the, as amended? Anybody from the crowd? All right. Please vote
I need a motion.
Well-
Motion. We need a motion.
for the, I thought we had a motion for the amendment.
We had a
Oh,
motion
sorry.
to change it.
All right, so I need a motion for the item as amended.
Wait, isn't that what I did?
Mr.
Huh?
Garvey made the motion.
I thought she did.
Yeah,
No,
I
that
thought,
was, that was for the amendment.
so have we voted on the amendment?
You
Yes.
voted on the amendment, this
Okay.
is as amended.
As amended, that's the word I missed, I apologize for that. So I make a motion as amended.
I'll second it, but Arlene, can you read it now, just to make sure everybody's clear?
Mr. Stewart, can you?
Yeah, so you amended the second paragraph, which will now be changed to read: the city Sulphur and, Board of Zoning Adjustment and Land Use Commission, I assume, probably need to, okay. The City of Sulphur Board of Zoning Adjustment hereby establishes a 3-minute rule on individual comments on agenda items by the public. This time can be extended by a majority vote of the board. The vote shall be held after the proper motion for specific additional amount of time after request by the individual seeking additional time. And then the exact same change would be on the City of Sulphur Land Use Commission. I can read that one at the appropriate time.
This is, yes.
So moved.
We did already have a
Yeah,
motion.
we did
Yeah, we have a
motion.
motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Irvin.
Ms. Carroll?
Yeah.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Brazil?
Yes. All right, any public comment before we close this meeting? All right, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Now we'll go into the Land Use Commission meeting, Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Let's see. Roll call, Ms. Hurley.
Ms. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Allison?
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mr. Brazil?
Here. All right, I need a motion for the approval of minutes of previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. I need a vote.
Aye.
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 Need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, please vote.
Aye.
Aye. All right, first item up is a presentation on the Sulphur Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Revision Project.
So we have our consultants here with Villavasio, Steve Villavasio and Associates, to present our, an update on where we are with the comprehensive zoning ordinance revisions.
Fred, you're gonna put the laptop there? Yeah. And Austin, I'll tell you when, well, I don't have to worry about, oh, we got the slides. Okay. Technology's working. Okay, great. All right.
Oh, by the way, YouTube is working. Once he got home, it started working.
Okay. We've done this without technology, so we're very flexible. Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, let's go. Let's. Yeah, that's really not the first slide. Are we controlling it here, Fred?
No.
Okay, let's go back to the first
All
slide.
right, you wanna go back to the title?
Yeah, title slide.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. I wanted the title slide so I can introduce myself and a little bit about the project and why we're here tonight. So I'm Steve Villavasso with Villavasso and Associates, and I've got Fred Neal here. He's one of our senior planners, and Andrew Trich, he's one of our new planners. And we've been working with the City of Sulphur for a little over a year, maybe a little bit more than that, updating the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, CZO. We use little buzzwords sometimes in the planning world. My firm we're a small zoning and planning firm. We've been around for about 28 years, work with small towns and parishes all over the state of Louisiana. We're pretty much Louisiana exclusive, and what we do usually is help communities with their master plans or help them with their zoning regulations or maybe their development regulations, and then come back and help those towns work with those facilities. We were in DeSoto Parish this morning, and we'll be in Iberville Parish tomorrow morning, okay? So we do this a lot. We love what we do, and I'm a city planner. I'm also a lawyer. I apologize about that. I have a rule about lawyers. Only one lawyer is needed to screw up a good deal, and I'm not going to screw this one up, okay? But we're a planning firm. We're not a law firm. And Fred and Andrew are qualified professional city planners, as I am also. So I just wanted to give you the background. So tonight is a short presentation. We have a few slides just to keep us on track. And if you don't mind, we don't mind if people ask us questions during the presentation. That's okay with us. And then at the end, of course, we can have comments also. Because the purpose of tonight is to give an update of the process, okay? The process of updating your comprehensive zoning ordinance. Your comprehensive zoning ordinance is over 20 years old. It has not had a significant update since it was adopted over 20 years ago. There have been minor tweaks and minor amendments over the decades, but this is a comprehensive look at the whole ordinance, which has several moving parts to it, okay? And the first slide we have up, now we can go to the first official slide, is, it's up here, Fred. Okay, yeah. Is sort of an overview of where we are, okay? Where we are, we're at the very beginning of a review of where we are. Now, we've been working for a while, obviously, doing technical work. And so this is an update of the presentation. So the idea is after tonight, we want to take any comments that we hear from you and boil those into a review version of the draft of the new comprehensive zoning ordinance. And that draft will then be developed and used in some official work sessions. So if you have, we want to hear comments tonight, but this is not the last time you can think about this or comment about this. This is the first of, we think, several meetings that will happen over the next few months. And so when we come back with a review draft and schedule some work sessions, and what we call a work session is really for the Planning Commission, the Land Use Commission would call a work session, and it would be almost a roll up your sleeves public meeting, including the public. And at that point, we would have a draft, and we might go through it word for word. It might be 2 or 3 hours. It might be in the afternoon. It might be at the convenience of the commission, convenience of citizens. And then we might have more than one of those until the commission is satisfied with the draft and satisfied with going through all the questions and answering issues that you bring up, that commission members bring up, that other public officials might bring up, other land developers might bring up. And then we would put together what we would call a recommended draft. And so once we got a recommended draft, then we would start what I call the legal process of adopting a new comprehensive zoning ordinance update of Sulphur's CZO. The legal process includes the Planning Commission or the Land Use Commission calling for a public hearing, a true public hearing that you would advertise, would come back here, and we would present that draft again, and then you would listen to comments again. So that, again, another opportunity to listen, to respond, and then at the end of that public hearing, the Land Use Commission, in its legal capacity under state law, would then make a recommendation to adopt it. You might make a recommendation to adopt it with amendments. You might make a recommendation to adopt it in its entirety at that point. And once that recommendation is voted on by the Land Use Commission, it then goes to the elected body, the council, and then because your zoning ordinance is a legal document, okay? And this amendment will amend the legal zoning rules of the city of Sulphur. And so the recommendation of the Land Use Commission goes to the council, and then the council holds a public hearing and listens to citizens again in their capacity as legislators. And when they're ready to vote to amend your comprehensive zoning ordinance, to update it, then they would schedule a vote. So this is going to take a few months, no question about that. It's an open process, and I just thought it was important to spend time to set the stage as to where we are and where we want to go. So tonight, we have some high-level ideas of what we want to talk about, where the changes are. Now, the changes are throughout the entire ordinance, okay? But these 6 bullets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets there, Fred? Yeah, 5 bullets, lay out what I would call the general categories of changes. One is a total reorganization of the text of the words that make up the zoning rules in the city of Sulphur, okay? And the text is over 20 years old. It's kind of confusing, and hopefully one of the reasons to reorganize it is to make it a little more logical, to make it easier for you to understand, make it easier for decision makers to understand. And so a reorganization of it so that it flows right. There are some new zoning districts that we'll talk about. And that doesn't suggest that your zoning is going to change, but the zoning districts and the names of them and what they mean and the definitions in the last 20 years, honestly, some of them don't even make sense. They're out-of-date terms, and so it's an update. And so we'll talk specifically about that. Third is process. I mean, you spent 25, 30 minutes tonight talking about the process of how you're going to run your meetings, which I think is a great idea and a great approach. But the process of getting an approval for a zoning issue, we heard tonight, they're very controversial, they're personal, people take an interest in them, and the process is very important, and the process is not laid out very well in the current ordinance. And so we are updating that process to make it transparent, so everybody understands the process, make it fair, so everybody is treated fairly, and at the end of the day, it meets the legal requirements. So there's going to be a streamlining of procedures and process. 2 specific items we put on the bullets here is manufactured housing standards. Manufactured housing is a wonky technical term for something that you might call a trailer. Well, manufactured houses are not trailers, okay? Trailers are defined specifically, and manufactured housing is defined specifically by federal law, so United States Supreme Court decisions, and state law. And so it's very important that now that we're updating this, and it's an important aspect of this community, just like every community, is what is a manufactured home, how is it treated, and how does the city treat it fairly in terms of a review process to respect the culture and character of all the neighborhoods of the city of Sulphur. And then one issue very specific to you is your Interstate 10 Frontage Road Overlay District, which is something that is unique to Sulphur. And it's a very important, A, economic development tool, B, land use control tool, and C, a tool that will fit into your master plan and your vision for the future of Sulphur. So we thought these 5 were important just to highlight on the front. So the next slide, Fred, how am I going to do this? I'm totally...
Yeah, no, it's my...
No, wasn't there another slide?
I think
okay, so this slide, which is very difficult to read, we apologize about that, but the point of this slide is this is the organization of your comprehensive zoning ordinance text today. So these are the 8 articles, 8 sections that make up your CZO This is how we approached it. And the next slide, Fred's going to take the ball from me, and Andrew's going to help us out too. Fred and I, we kind of go back and forth on this. And if you want to stop us at any time, we don't have a problem with that. The chair doesn't have any problem with that. But we wanted to just get a quick overview of how the articles lay out. General provisions, administrative, overlay districts, temporary use standards, general development standards, non-conforming uses, sign regulations, and definitions. Definitions, very important. We use a lot of words. You use a lot of words, and guess what? You know who decides what the words mean? You do. We write the definitions in here. Because if we don't, you know what? People will make up their own definitions, or they'll go to Webster. So the definition section, even though it's number 8, I always think it's one of the most important sections of any legislative action. So I'm going to hand the ball over to Fred, because he's going to go through the bigger issues in more detail so you can see a little bit of what we're talking about. So Fred?
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, and welcome. Yeah, thank you for that slide. Is perfect. And just one quick note. We will also, if y'all want to see, I know I'm a little bit taller, I'm blocking views, and we'll email y'all a copy of the PowerPoint. Feel free to take notes and take pictures, but we're happy to share this. So if you can't, if you missed something, and I'm going to move a little bit faster because we want to have some time for questions and comments. But we really, a lot of this, again, Steve mentioned, we've been working for more than a year, and we have picked up some themes of comments from the staff, comments from elected officials and public officials, and also I think one thing Steve did mention is that we have been looking at all your agendas really for the past couple of years, and Arlene actually sends them to us each month, and we've been kind of following before and cataloging to identify, what are the pieces or things that keep coming up. So manufactured housing regulations, Steve mentioned that. We're reviewing the non-conforming use standards, and a lot of y'all in this room probably know a lot and have had a lot of experience with this, but this is if you have a use that was maybe legal or was been around for a long time, but now it doesn't quite meet the requirements of the code. You need to have clear rules and standards for how you deal with that. And y'all have some. We know y'all spent a lot of time talking about non-conforming uses over the past couple of years, and we put in some new standards and work with the staff to really clarify. Operations and processes, Steve mentioned it, who has authority, how do you make decisions, really updating development standards. I think Steve mentioned your code is more than 20 years old. You don't have a lot of development standards. and development standards are additional requirements. So if you have a piece of property zone, I just say commercial, a lot of codes, if you have commercial, it has a list of what you can do, and that's it. Whereas modern codes, what we're proposing is that in addition to commercial, you can have a restaurant, you can have a grocery store. Additionally, you have some design standards that say, if it's in this zoning district, maybe you want the facade to look a certain way. Maybe you want to require an additional level of landscaping, right? Those can be put in codes and are part of modern codes. And so that's a big area of emphasis. And then really ensuring, I'm going to lose this, that the zoning code is friendly to business. And I'll say business, very general, to the public, right? Your current code has a lot of pieces in different places. We think from our work there's a clear organization of how codes function that make it easier for the public to use it. So we'll move on to the next slide. I'll ask the chair, just Zach,
Mr. Watt?
Yeah, on your non-conforming standards that you had on the last zone.
Yeah.
And we've had some issues with that in the past. When we first started zoning, there were a lot of controversy about that because we have areas of town where the property and the houses and things like that, I can show you houses that are sitting on the property line. There was something in the old code that said if the house was destroyed by over 50% or something, that they couldn't build it back. If you got right down to it and looked into all the legal matters in there, you could have people that would have to pay property taxes in order to maintain their property, couldn't build their house back. Did y'all address any of that in there? Because at one time we had grandfather clause, and there was a lawyer that took it out. No pun intended, but that's what happened. The lawyer took it out of there. You've got houses right now, and if we get a hurricane here, and over 50% of that house is torn down, then these people can't build their houses back. unless they get a variance, or they go through this finance and everything else. That needs a lot of consideration.
Yes, it does.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's.
Oh, no,
that's
no,
what it is to me.
That is a great note.
Not
And-
in that area of town.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I'll say, I think maybe Steve, also for, at the end, when Steve come back up, if you want to add more detail. But yes, we do have some new rules and standards that we think are, you know, more fair and put everyone on a level playing field, right? Which is one of the challenges, right? I think, in so much we had this conversation earlier about public comments, zoning should treat, you know, it should treat everyone the same, right? It shouldn't show biases based on where you live or who you are, and for that. So I'll say yes. We'd love to get your input on the weeds of it. Like I said, especially in a work session, that may be, as Steve mentioned, a topic that we will focus on because it is important for everyone to, and for us to make sure we're getting it right. This is a draft that some of you have, and there is room for making edits. So yes, thank you for that. And that is very important, and I think important enough to highlight here. I will, and I won't spend too longer, but just say Steve mentioned an updated residential zoning districts. I will make one note that we think, and without saying any names, we think one of the problems with your current residential zoning districts is they do not reflect the current land use pattern or lot sizes as well as they should of Sulphur, of the city of Sulphur right now. So we've working, and we're still some work in progress to really look at residential zoning districts that reflect it. So, and one of the challenges is, I know I'm going to try to set out the details, but you mentioned non-conforming uses. Some people have property that's non-conforming because the lot size is not right for the area where if they live in a residential subdivision that's developed. So this may be a way, or we hope is a way to like reduce some of the non-conforming use challenges so you're not in that, you don't even have to think about, you don't have to deal with non-conforming use if something horrible happens and you need to rebuild. So we would love comments on that. Really looking at commercial districts that provide flexibility simply for infill commercial development. There are sites, and infill is probably too much of a planning term, but I think, you know, y'all can all identify maybe some vacant commercial sites or some sites that are maybe, you know, not fully utilized, and sometimes codes make it hard for someone to come in and put a new business in. So really taking that lens with also addition of design standards, so we're not sacrificing, you know, you're not sacrificing, oh, we want something here so bad, you could just come in and put whatever you want, we don't care how it looks or what it is. So balancing that. Manufactured housing updates, clear standards, looking at, you have a lot of, not just individual units, you have some manufactured housing parks. We really look forward to talking about this because this is going to be a new approach, but think about how you can improve some of those, or try to incentivize improvement of some of those areas, but then also for individual units, lighting, fencing, landscaping, roof pitch, lot size, and placement. Yes, yes.
I have a question about, I know that the standard now is that it says that a mobile home has to be 10 years newer, 10 years old or newer. But the HUD housing manufactured home regulations changed drastically in the 70s, and then they were majorly updated in, I think, 2005, so that 10-year limit seems to be arbitrary, and I was wondering what the rationale was behind it.
So what I will say is you are correct on HUD updating its standards, and I think there's been a more recent update. I think, without going too much into details, again, we'll love to, especially in the sessions, talk about this. I believe, and without speaking directly to it, I don't want to waste that. We may have left that in there, but we also did highlight that the key, that manufactured housing does have to meet the new HUD standards. Without three differential, I think there is another conversation about if it meets the HUD standards, is that the requirement that we want? So you can add more requirements on there. You can't make it, and without getting too stick, sometimes it talks to me, but you can make it, a community can make it more restrictive. You can't make it less restrictive. So to answer your question, I think that is a conversation. I believe in addition to verifying or being very explicit that if you have a new manufactured housing unit, and it has to meet the HUD standard, which is a specific, is it a yellow tag? We get in the weeds of this, that is the HUD standard. There's- meets whether it's over or not, but yeah. So we'll make a note of that, and that is something that, again, I think we'll look forward to talking about with, and I think we did get some comments from some of the commissioners about that, but that is something that, again, we're highlighting because we know we need to get input, and we want to get input from the public on that particular topic. So,
Can I just real quick?
Yeah.
I think, Ms. Parker's, because our standard at the city of Austin, am I correct, is stronger than the HUD
Yes, I
at
think
this
so.
time?
And what the ordinance she's talking about isn't in our land use ordinance, that's in our, I forget which chapter,
12.
12.
Okay.
yeah.
So that's only, what is on the council.
All right. And then I think really this is, well, we just have a few more, Interstate 10 frontage road overlay. And to be fair to our, friends in the parish, they actually have adopted an overlay that they started this conversation. The city has agreed to kind of model, but as Steve mentioned, because the codes are different, you can't just cut and paste what the Calcasieu Parish has to Sulphur. We need to really look at it. So it's not a cut and paste, but it will align and promote the Friends of Gateway, thinking about prohibited uses and aesthetically pleasing commercial development. That is really the right scale and density for the frontage road. And non-conforming use standards, and again, I kind of have this because we can talk about them, but clear standards on, we used the word grandfather, though we're taking it out, abandonment rules, and, what can you do on a non-conforming lot, and then enforcement. We put amortization rules, which is, I'll say, we will, without getting into details, we're going to share more about what that means, but enforcement is also key in this, and having a fair public process if someone wants to. And also, you mentioned, should they be getting a variance? Should it be a waiver? We need to really be clear on what is the best approach for the city of Sulphur to address those issues of non-conforming when they come up. And so really off to our side. So just, Steve went through this, but we like to begin and end with kind of where we are and where we're going. I'm not going to repeat all this. It's in the presentation, but just notice while we're not going to get outside of me and Steve and Andrew deep diving too much, because we know you have other things to talk about. The goal is not really to talk about those weeds, but we want your comments. I will say, while we're going to take comments, we're going to be here the whole meeting. We're not going to take off. So we're not going to take off once y'all hear the other cases. We're happy to talk afterwards. We're working with the city. We just know that we feel it's been, Steve mentioned, you work all over the state, it goes more. The city of Sulphur and your staff and their investment and your land use commission and they came, we've met with folks this summer. Some communities give lip service to really caring about updates, and it's like, just whatever, we'll push it through. We see a clear value of Sulphur is we want to get this right. And which is why I think one of the things, let's have an update presentation that's really kind of announce what we're doing, and we're available, you're all available. We come to Sulphur whenever you need us. We're happy to use whatever mechanism it needs to get, to give Sulphur the code that they deserve. So we don't have, I think Steve and we have another planner who's worked on this a good bit. Ellis is on here. We can get Andrew's information. You can call us anytime. We will send you the presentation, and we're happy to take some questions or comments. I know Steve will.
Just going to make a couple of general comments based on what I heard here. And thank you. All the comments we've heard so far are great. First, on non-conforming. Someone said the word grandfather. We talked about lot size. We heard about, if your house is damaged, maybe you can't get it redone in 6 months. Well, my house was wiped out in Hurricane Katrina. It took me 3 years to get my house back. So obviously, I'm very sensitive about something like that. And that kind of flexibility or rights need to be put in here in addition to normal legal non-conforming rights. Because I like to always say, we're not just talking about non-conforming rights, because that's sort of the negative view of it, but it's the legal aspects of you being to continue enjoying the non-conforming rights. Because someone said, well, if you can't rebuild, you can't use your lot. Well, if you can't use your lot, guess what? City of Sulphur's got to buy it. You need to be able to use your land, okay? This code has to give you the right to use your land in a reasonable way, Okay, so we're real sensitive about that. And so this non-conforming thing is a big deal for us, and we want you to look at it, give us the feedback, and what I heard tonight is great. Someone said about the 10-year rule being arbitrary. I couldn't agree with you more. The 10-year rule is arbitrary. It's not about the 10 years. It's about whether the manufactured home meets the code, whatever the code is, on that day. And if there's a conflict in another part of your ordinance, we're going to resolve those conflicts, okay? So there's no question, conflict of laws is real important to me. As an attorney, it's real important to the town, and we don't want to have one part of your code saying A, another part of your code saying B, because then some crazy lawyer is going to come in and use that conflict of laws to cherry pick whatever they want to do. Last comment I'll make, just a general thing, because I'm sitting there listening. Your I-10 overlay, and I agree all the nice things Fred said about it, but you know what it's really about? It's about infrastructure. It's about the roads and the drainage and the standards, so we want to make sure that the town standards, the city standards line up with the parish standards, and so that a developer who wants to build in this corridor not only knows what he has to do or she has to do, but it's in the best interest of the city of Sulphur, so that the road's the right road, it's built with the right concrete, it's draining properly. So I'm sort of a blood and guts guy. I want the infrastructure to work, and I want it to look good too. So those are just three things I picked up with the comments and everything. And so we're happy to listen tonight and stay here as long as you want us to. We have our cell phones and email addresses, and Austin and Arlene, and everybody knows how to get in touch with us. You can call me directly. If I don't answer the phone, that just means I'm talking to somebody else, and I'll call you back. So, however you want to run it, Mr. Chairman, we're here.
Well, I'm going to bring it to the board first. I think Mr. Troy has something.
I just want to say something real quick, because like this 10-year rule, this is the biggest thing on these trailers in town.
Yeah.
And my thing, I've been thinking a lot of this, and I ride around in my district too. And we've got some places on Gulf Lane and Weekly Road and all that. That's a low spot, and they're building new homes, and they're coming up 4 feet with them, okay? With
Yes,
dirt.
sir.
I think we talked about this at the meeting, about, that building standards need to kind of change as
That's
well.
right. That's right.
But
They
with
need
that,
to
with these trailers-
dovetail with this. Yeah.
With these trailers, I hear a lot from people, Troy, why can't I have a 20-year-old trailer as long as it meets code? So that 10-year, I really want to look at if we can extend that somehow, as long as it meets the standard building code of the city of Sulphur.
And the HUD code too.
And
It's got to meet the HUD
Well,
code.
that
Because
first
guess
one
what?
was
If it doesn't meet the
sued.
HUD code, you're not getting a mortgage on it. And nobody's writing a check for $110,000, because that's what they cost nowadays. People don't realize that.
But I've
you know.
seen 20-year-old trailers, my point is, better looking than 10-year-old
Yeah, I
trailers
agree.
that have been totally remodeled.
You're right.
So that's a big, and I think that's where Miss Cindy, and I know Mr. Bellinger that left. he
And then
I
you can
already
meet the code if
discussed
you
this.
remodel it to the standards.
If
It's
it
like
meets standards,
you know what the
we ought to
Supreme
accept that
Court
because
says.
of one thing only,
Yeah.
affordability.
Yeah.
Our town, for our young kids, is getting unaffordable with flood insurance, okay? That hadn't been addressed either. We need to look at flood insurance. The new standards in the city of Sulphur has us almost all in a flood zone. There are very few properties that are not in the FEMA flood zone anymore. So you're talking about Gulf Lane, and it's a residential, so you can't put trailers there. Even though there's 180 from One Vision, which is ludicrous, but that's another map issue which you and I talked about.
Yes, we did.
I want to see that map soon if we can.
We will.
But the standard of those trailers need to be accepted if they meet code. Affordability and flood problems. I mean, if you really go look what we got going on around here, especially from Bayou Den south, which is Taylor, Starling, all that area. My dad's house was a $125,000 house. We couldn't sell it because they wanted $3,800 a year for flood insurance. Now that's a starter home for somebody to get started in.
Yes.
So you taking somebody's note, that's about $300 or $400, I guess, you're a realtor, but $3,800
It's 300 something.
that you're gonna
Per month.
that you're gonna add
Yeah.
to your note, and these kids can't afford that. So that's something that's huge and we need to watch in this process of this right here.
Yes.
On the floodplain management side, and as far as flood insurance goes, they actually just changed that whole process. So they don't just, go and look at the map and see if you're in a flood zone anymore. They have what they call a risk rating 2.0 that has a whole slew of variables that they put into the program, and it spits out whatever premium it might be. Now, is it better than what it was? I think it's more objective and more real to what the actual condition is. But unfortunately, we live in the South, so it's not really benefiting us because we got water everywhere.
We live in a swamp.
Yep.
Yeah, and I will say
I do
for that-
too in New Orleans.
I will
I
say-
live in the middle of the swamp.
I will say for that, I mean, the only way we can get our flood insurance reduced really is through CRS.
Yeah.
And I know we had talked about doing something with them before. I don't know, or did we abandon that? Okay. All right. Anybody else from the board want to speak? Got any comments? All right, hearing none, Mr. LeBlanc, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Can you come to the mic, please?
I've got a couple of things I'd like to take into consideration. One thing is non-conforming. When you start looking at the non-conforming properties that we have in this town, I think that you need to go back to the original platting. Because, I mean, a lot of these folks, they built their house when Citgo was building here and Conoco was building and things like that. They bought into these subdivisions, and they're called subdivisions if you go into the plat books. And a lot of them, 5,000 square foot was, the maximum lot you could buy. You could buy 2 lots if you wanted to, or if you're crazy enough to. But I mean, so the original platting has to fall into that, something to control that non-conforming, because these people built these houses 50, 60 years ago. They don't want to start, they don't even want to be called non-conforming. Because you go down into my part of town and start telling people that they're non-conforming, you better have your boxing gloves on. The other thing
that is exactly what happened in New Orleans. We had a whole neighborhood with 40-foot lots, 700 homes. They were all non-conforming. Well, that's not going to work. So we created a whole new zoning district to allow for 40-foot lots and made them all permitted on 40-foot lots. So you're right. You can't say a whole town is non-conforming. By the way, the department cannot manage that, okay, from a process perspective. And you're right, it diminishes the value of the property, it diminishes, the culture, and by the way, the 40-foot lots, in my example, were there for 200 years. And your 50-foot lots have been there since the beginning of Sulphur. So there's nothing wrong with them.
120 years or so.
120.
Okay, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I mean, that's one of the main things right there. And then you talked about changes of the map. When you start changing this map, like Troy's talking about, things like that, are you talking about changing the designations of the zonings in these areas? Are you going to change any designated, like, I'll give you an example. I buy business property, and I buy commercial property, and I buy residential property. When I buy a piece of business property, I pay more for it than if it's a piece of residential property. And when I get ready to sell that property, I want to sell it for that.
You're right.
So I may be hiring one of you guys if you cut the value of my property by changing it on that map, I mean, you need to look at that real close, because there's commercial property out there that looks pretty much residential, but it's actually been zoned as business property. And when you purchased it, and it depends, you can also go to the time that I purchased it, I purchased this after zoning, most of it, because I didn't have any money before zoning, but the thing about it is, if I purchased it as a residential lot, I paid less for it than I purchased the same size lot as a commercial lot. And so when you guys start talking about changing the map, be real careful with that, because I don't want my property changed. The ones that I've got that's commercial and business, and you talked about streamlining this thing, and I thought we were going to reduce the number of criteria we had, like residential, commercial, business, and mixed residential, but I see that you put some more things in there, so we're gonna have the same amount of items to look at, because you got 2 residentials, versus we had 1. So, I mean, I don't see a streamline yet, but I mean, I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to understand it.
We're listening.
I'm just trying to understand it, you know what I mean, that's all I wanna do. But, we gotta be real careful when we change that map.
Thank you. Ms. Robertson?
Cindy Robertson, 624 West Verdine. Throughout the plan, you reference the master plan, and the master plan that is on file is from 2011. And so I think, and I've tried to use that for different grants that I write, and it's a mess. Okay, thank you. So it would be good if they're going to do this and reference the master plan, that we have an updated master plan.
Music to our ears.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, you have anything? You're up.
Mr. LeBlanc here covered most of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Kenneth left?
Yes, he said to just record his.
Okay. Mr. DePetta, you're up.
Danny DePetta, 5098 Bonin. Just a couple questions to Mr. Villavasso and his team. I wish that this would have been made available to us sooner so that we could have read through it. And one of the questions I have on it is basically how much different is this going to be from what we currently have? And will you be, will we get a strikeout version or an underlined version or changes done in red? Or is that just too far opposed to what we're looking at currently, where we can put one side by side?
The short answer is it's a significant update. Short answer number 2, no, we will not do a red line version.
Okay.
Because it's a significant update.
All right, that was what I was concerned
We will
with.
come to as many meetings and answer as many questions as we can do, so that people understand how the previous one has evolved into the new one. But it's a good comment. We knew somebody would make it, Danny.
Well,
So thank you for doing it.
thank you. And, the only other question I have is in the past, we have standards. We have ordinances that are guidelines to how we build. For example, in the case I'm about to bring up is subdivisions. And what we've done in the past, and not this group or not necessarily the city council as a whole either, is that we've taken those ordinances and we have made variances on as many as 6 of those ordinances to drop the standards below what is the minimum standard, which what it creates is new housing that is non-conforming. And so I would like to see something in there that would make that harder to do, so we're not building non-conforming standards, non-conforming housing subdivisions, when we already have ordinances in place that bring us to here. And I don't want to see us go to here. Just a statement. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all the cards I have from the public. Does anybody else wish to say something? And I want to appreciate the group for coming, and y'all will stick around in case anybody wants to talk to you afterwards.
We'll meet you at Cracker Barrel for breakfast tomorrow.
Can I ask a question real quick?
We'll be there at 8, actually.
So, my question is to do with what he was just talking about, because I sat on this board long enough that when we did one of the subdivisions where there were a lot of size changes requested, and I voted no every time, because I just don't feel like, I feel like that should be a division of its own, if you have a new subdivision that's coming in with like 0 lot lines or whatever, I don't think that should be in the same standard as what a normal residential is. Is that gonna be addressed in this new? Like, will those kind of subdivisions where they're coming in, so we don't get asked for a variance on, you know, all these lots? Because I just don't think that's a great idea.
Good question, and yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else before we move on? All right, hearing none. Next item is resolution establishing rules on comments by the commission and public on agenda items. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion, second?
Second.
All right, now we can discuss it.
So same as the,
Just gonna
as the
repeat
other?
what we did.
Just
Yeah.
strike the 2/3.
Y'all want me to read out what it would change to, someone can make a motion? I can read it out real quick.
I'll make a motion that we do what we did in the first one, in the BZA, and just
Do you need me
Change
to
it
read
to-
it or no?
To remove the 2/3
Make it
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
majority.
and make it a majority.
So we have a motion, we get a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, second, please vote.
Aye.
Aye. All right, now I need a motion, second to vote on the item as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Aye.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I apologize to y'all for not letting y'all speak. Did anybody want to speak on that? I apologize. Man, I'm trying to move along. Y'all can let me have it. All right, so next item is resolution amending the previously adopted resolution which subdivided lots for Arena Road Hospitality LLC located at 2580 and 2600 Ruth Street for Zaveri subdivision to reword paragraph dealing with the right-of-ways and work commencing prior to obtaining permits. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. So, is anybody here to speak on that item?
There's someone
If you
here.
have questions, I can get probably into them, but I'm really just,
Well,
oh, do you have questions?
I'm sorry?
Do you have questions? I mean,
Oh,
I think it's all been, the details have been presented.
yeah. I mean, does the board have any questions?
Can you give us a rundown real quick?
Can you give us a rundown real quick?
Yes.
So you still have to go to the,
Okay,
Can you please go to the podium and just explain maybe kind of what you are actually asking for the record, if you don't mind?
Yes, can I have those notes back from you?
Yes.
It's gonna make me talk. Okay, so we have a client purchasing or refinancing this property to build a gas station. And the way, let's see. There is revisionary language in the plat, in the original plat filed back in May of 2022, that states that the subdivision should interfere with the rights privileges owned by the city of Sulphur pursuant to any existing right-of-way servitudes and easements. Then the city may withdraw the ordinance, and improvements must be removed by the owner at the owner's expense. Additionally, there is language that the city can revoke the subdivision. The attorney took issue with that language, stating that it creates a cloud on the title for the property since it grants the city the authority to remove all improvements that may encroach. The client is attempting to refinance the property to build the gas station, as I stated previously, and we can't issue title insurance because of this title issue, and our underwriter has suggested language to revise that statement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? I don't see an item on the cards here for that one. Is there any comments from the public?
So if I can provide a little bit of
Sure.
I guess,
Can you speak up? I'm sorry.
yes, please. So from my perspective, it allows us to still make it right. It just doesn't allow us to completely take it away from them, if that makes sense. So it says it may be withdrawn. Any improvements constructed thereon shall be removed at the expense of the owner. Instead of that, there's just language that will still allow us to make it right, but we just can't go and make them remove it off the top. So still kind of the same, but not as harsh.
Okay.
So you still require changes, but not removal.
All right, any last minute comments?
Motion for approval.
What, all right, so we have a motion?
I already have a motion.
Yeah, so.
We got one?
Mhm.
You got a second?
Yes,
All right.
and then, so I need a vote. Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and motion passed. All right, item 4 is resolution amending previously adopted resolution on August 19th, 2024 that granted rezone to 2209 Car Lane from residential to business to remove the stipulation that states parking and driveway must be concrete. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
motion and second. All right, I think Mr. Smith, you're here?
Dan Smith, 1800 Honeysuckle Lane. So yes, I bought this property and I just want to build a commercial building on it. And I am going to have concrete with the parking just on the west side, about 25 feet by 70 to 80 feet. I wanted to put crushed concrete, something like that, just not concrete. Like most business owners, I have a budget to work with. And, you know, it was brought up to me that one of the concerns was dust control. Every driveway on Car Lane is gravel. So I will have concrete in the front parking for my customers, but just this one little strip, I just wanted something to be put other than concrete, whether it be crushed concrete or some other type of aggregate, basically so it doesn't blow my budget. Because I'm already having to make changes to my building because the building to the east side of me is built too close to the property line. So I'm having to spend a lot of extra money for my building because of that there. So I just would like to be able to allow to put that crushed concrete or something like that. Miles per, I mean, there's not a traffic flow. It's me pulling into my driveway, my delivery drivers. It's about 5 miles an hour. It's not a continuous traffic all day long or anything like that. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for Mr. Smith from the board? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, we do have a few people to speak on this item. Mr. Baden?
Joshua Baden, 630 Alabama Street. This property was actually purchased from me by this gentleman. And I actually came before this board and y'all put strict stipulations on me, and I wasn't planning on putting a commercial building there at all. It was just a sea-can container for a laydown yard. Not only did you put the concrete and asphalt stipulations against me, but you also read ordinances that weren't even ordinances into the minutes and enforced it on me and enforced me to comply with it. An 8-foot buffer fence, which not even an ordinance, is 6 foot. The business that's adjoining my property that he's referring to has a 6-foot alleyway that was rezoned prior to my building that was adjoining my residential. It was an administrative rezoning. Never even came here. They don't have any concrete parking. There was no backflow preventer. There was no buffer fence required, nothing. So I guess I kind of have an issue at this point. I'm 100% in agreement. I think the man needs to move forward with his business. And I think that he needs to be able to be allowed to put concrete there and then minimize rock in certain areas. But my problem was the accountability with this board, holding me accountable for stipulations that weren't even ordinances, and then wonder why I got upset with you guys. Because it cost me a fortune in legal fees to fight you to get them rescinded, to not only have it rescinded, but to then have the fire marshal come put a stop work order on a non-permitted C-can because I was building shelves in it as a retaliation. So it's just one of those things that if we're gonna rezone something, we can't rezone something and allow it to change from its original scope from what is originally set for and not make them bring that building up to code, into compliance. I mean, because that's what we're rewriting this stuff for. Once it changes from its original act, it's no longer, to me, a grandfather. I mean, because it's changed. You're changing the whole scope of what that building is being used for. Because, I mean, it might be used for a glass shop one day, and then the next day it'd be used for storing chemicals. So, I mean, the fire rating, the fire walls, I mean, the fire code, everything changes. So we have to look at it per case basis, but if we're gonna take and change it next door, and it's adjoining property all the way down, and you rezone it, and nobody ever brings it before the zoning board, but yet you're gonna make me comply with it, and put crazy stipulations that didn't even apply to what my business was gonna do.
Thanks, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. DePetta.
Danny DePetta, 5098 Bonin. I guess I have just a couple questions. Can I ask a question to Mr. Smith?
You can address them to me and we'll see if he wants to answer.
Could you ask Mr. Smith if he was aware of the stipulations on this property before he bought it?
Mr. Smith, would you like to address that?
So,
Please come up to the mic.
actually, when I bought the property, I bought the property not realizing that I was stepping into a hornet's nest. And so did I read all the legalities and everything that was involved in the property? No, and that is my fault. So I will abide by whatever the zoning board or the city council has to say about it. But, I know it was residential, now it's business, and there's been all kind of issues with it, this and that. So did I look at all that before I signed my name and just paid cash for the lot because I got it for a good deal? No, I did not. So that's, it's on me, but that's what I'm saying. I've been a business owner here in Sulphur for 18 years, and I grew up here, and so I'm just trying to continue doing my work, paying my taxes like most of y'all in here. I've done work for most of you people in here, and so that's all I'm just asking. And I realize Mr. Baden's situation. Why do it for me when it wouldn't be done for him? I get that, I'm just asking. That's all I'm here. I'm not here to cause no waves. I got a business to run, and I got decisions to make like everybody else that runs a business. And so that's all I'm doing. But was I aware? Everything was set before me before I signed the papers. I didn't read it line for line. No, that's me.
All right.
So
Thank you, sir.
So there was no disclosure?
So
No. Okay.
Obviously not, Bill.
Okay, thank you. The only other question I have is I can't really read what the setback is between the road, what is going to be concrete parking and the proposed building. Does that meet our current setback standards?
It looked like it did to me. I mean, did you want?
yes, so everything, my contractor has provided everything to the city of Sulphur, to the permitting office and everything. So everything was good to go from the city of Sulphur that I have here, as far as the concrete parking, the setbacks and all that.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes. All right, any other discussion from the board?
I mean, at this point, I think we need, if he's gonna build on that property, we made Mr. Baden go by the rules. Yeah, go ahead.
I want the record reflect, I'm not in opposition. I'm not trying to say, let's not do this for him. I think absolutely that we need to allow this man to move forward with his business. I mean, he's bringing business into our community. I mean, he's reestablishing a new business here. What was done to me was wrong. Let's not make a second mistake and do it to him. I mean, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. And the second thing is just right next door. Let's look at the properties right next door that was allowed to be rezoned to commercial. There's no compliancy with any of the ordinances. And so that's what we need. It just needs to be some consistency, and we need to look at some things and say, hey, we messed up. Let's have some accountability. Let's fix it, and let's not go back and make two mistakes.
I got it.
That's all I'm saying.
So hang on, stay there if you don't mind, because I got
Sure.
a question for you. So, the building on the corner, that has nothing to do with us, okay? And I'm gonna be man enough tonight, just like you and I talked the other night, okay? We made a mistake on that 8-foot fence. That's the only thing. The parking is what we all have to abide by.
But
Now,
my parking was stipulated to put concrete and asphalt down. That only applies if there is a building that's gonna be open to the public there. It doesn't apply to, and we established this through legal counsel.
I got you, I understand that,
Right.
but at the time of the meeting, we had no drawing from you. If you remember my conversation, which I said, Josh, just get them a drawing, so they understand what you're doing. That went on even past our meeting, I believe, correct?
Right, but if I if I remember correctly, I clearly said there will be no building open to the public. It's strictly a C-can storage container. I mean, I could draw a square on a piece of paper. I mean,
Well, I
You
get
know-
it.
you know
but
what I'm
that's-
saying? I
no,
mean-
I get it, okay?
I mean-
Because you and I have had that talk.
right.
Okay, but my concern tonight is, okay, I wanna help this guy too. But
Absolutely.
We made you do something that, I don't want you to leave tonight if we approve him, and if you're in favor, I'll be in favor. If
I'm in
not,
100%
because of what
in
happened on your
favor.
project,
Right.
I'm not in favor of it right now.
Right, well,
Because I agree, when it got to the council and it finalized, even with you requesting the 6-foot fence, nothing was done. I'm in agreement with that. And the only reason we agreed on the 8-foot fence that night, which wasn't code, I'm man enough to tell you that, somebody on the board was opposing us to even getting it passed. Do you remember that conversation?
yes,
And we got you passed. What was the goal that night to get you through the zoning?
right.
Whether that's right or not, I was trying to get you approved. So,
It was the entire process that was completely undesirable to have
It
the
was a
experience.
mess. No, I
It was a
agree with
mess. And,
but we're trying to make it right
right, and
tonight.
moving forward, I think that, I think we need to look at trying what we can do to help people bring business here.
I get it.
And to establish it, and not complicate things. And, I guess I'm gonna go a little bit further. It wasn't just you guys. When it went to the council for final approval, I brought it up and I read it to them. And I had the city attorney even read the ordinance, which he says, Mr. Baden is correct, it's not an ordinance. Ms. Ellender and Ms. Abshire moved to move forward with it anyway. I mean, why would you go against what legal counsel's telling you? I mean, that's what we need to stop, and that's what we need to change from this point on in the future. Like, this city has got so much potential, but I mean, if we put the brakes on and stop it and hinder it, it's gonna hurt everybody here.
Okay,
Thank you, sir. All right, any other, Mr. DePetta?
Just one thing. I just want to be clear that I'm not opposed to this. And, the unfair treatment to me tonight was not against Mr. Baden, but was against this gentleman right here. Because I don't think it was disclosed to him what he was up against. And I want to make that perfectly clear. Thank you. And I hope you vote in favor of him getting what he
Thank you.
needs.
Mr. LeBlanc, did you have something?
No,
All right, I thought you might have had.
I'll just make the chair just take over, let's go.
All right, so we're about to move on. All right, so, can I get a vote?
Motion.
I
Second.
got the motion in the second.
What, can
Aye.
we please vote?
Aye.
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 All right, final things, public comment. I think I have a card from Mr. Baden. You have anything else to add? Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? All right, hearing none, meeting is adjourned.
up against the residential.
Stay warm as we can.
I'm looking for, I'll be doing 8.